If you're a student or someone who's studying something, especially like something you don't want to learn about, I highly recommend you make the stuff that you're learning about relevant in some way. And by relevant, I don't mean I'm going to use this later in life because I'm going to be doing this, because that might not actually be true. When I was forcing myself through my general education history classes, I did not ever think that I was going to use that information ever again. Why do I need to know all these dates for all these wars? So I teach oral skills, which is ear training for musicians, and the truth is not all of my students are going to use everything that we learned in this class in their career. Like, it's just not going to happen. But it's still a good thing for them to learn. So by relevance, I actually am referring to Sperber and Wilson's relevance theory, which boils down to a ratio between the cognitive load, so like how difficult is it to understand, and like how many words or how many like math equations or dates or like just number of things that you have to think about, and like how complicated it is. And that's one half of the ratio, and the other half of the ratio is how related it is to beliefs that you already have. So it either bolsters beliefs you already have or it undermines beliefs that you already have. But also, look at the lake today. Gorgeous. So I made history more relevant to me by thinking about like, okay, what are things related to this period in history that I actually have beliefs about? And that was like what music was happening during these times. So I would think, okay, what year was this war? And then what other like big pieces of music came out during that year? And it made the history class more interesting for me, for one, and it also made the music I was studying and thinking about in relation to that history class more meaningful as well, because I had an idea of what was going on in the rest of the world while this music was being written. So going back to oral skills, we've been doing this median a lot this week, and so for my students who really like Taylor Swift, one thing they could do, and one thing we listened to in class, was like how a bunch of Taylor Swift songs use the chord progression 1, 6, 4, 5. So the students who are like super into Taylor Swift, they could think about how it's so interesting that a lot of her songs go 1, 6, 4, 5, but they can still sound very different from each other. Conversely, students who might hate Taylor Swift, for instance, could use that as like, oh my gosh, why does every single one of her songs use the same chord progression 1, 6, 4, 5? And either way, it's still relevant to them because it relates to opinions that they already have, like strong beliefs they have either way. But for students who may have never even like heard of Taylor Swift before, then that won't work. So you're going to have to find something else that is more relevant, that you have strong opinions about. And if you are able to connect it to something that you do have strong opinions about, it makes it more interesting to study, it makes it more meaningful, and it also makes it easier to remember things.